than honesty and integrity, and your health, which, by the way, is directly proportional and connected to your decision to be honest. Those things are directly connected together. You will see in the future, you will see a lot of things come out about how probably 80% of sicknesses and disease is psychosomatic. That means it's driven by emotional patterns. What's more important than ethics and integrity? What's more important than character? Gee, if I asked that question to Sandra Bullock, what do you think she would say? If I asked that question to Tiger Woods' wife, what do you think she would say? You see, we've headed down a path. Why did I choose this company? Because it's the right people with the right concept at the right time. Why am I sharing this message with you? Because whose responsibility is it to pick up the paper? Yours. Whose responsibility is it to create a new pathway, not just to create financial wealth, but to become rich? Now you see, in my lifetime, I'm 64 years old. I'm about to release a book soon called The Happiness Formula. In my life, I have learned both sides of the equation. I have had plenty of financial wealth. Plenty. And I've had none, where I had to sell my television set to pay my real estate taxes. At one point in my life was circling the drain. You can probably figure out what I mean by that, circling the drain. I wanted to leave because I was unhappy. Here's what's interesting. How do most people try to create happiness in their life? They use the outside world. They don't use the inside world, they use the outside world. If I find Mr. or Mrs. Right, if I have the right amount of money, if I have the right job, if I have enough power, if my body's a different shape or size, I'll finally get there. Life is not a destination, it's a journey. And you see, while you take this journey, it's all about cause and effect. Because everything you do in life has an effect. Every single thing you do. Not picking up the piece of paper has an effect. So what is most important to you in life? What's most important to you in life? Somebody raise your hand and tell me, what is most important to you in life?
My family.
Your family. Somebody else. Your relationship with God. Somebody else.
My name. My name.
Your name. Okay. Now, imagine for a minute, and this, I do not put this in the context of thinking that you do not value ethics and integrity, but suppose what's most important to you in life was ethics, integrity, self-worth. What would happen to your life if that is what was most important to you? Everything would shift and everything would change dramatically. Because you see, underneath that umbrella is your family, is your name, is God. They're all underneath that umbrella. They're all underneath that one umbrella. And so are hundreds of other things. Hundreds. So, ShopBest, at this point in time, you don't have to imagine or wish or hope that there's potentially financial reward. Because it's pretty much, you can see conceptually, it's all the right stuff at the right time. And like Tim was saying, and by the way, that currently 1 billion people online and 3 billion in 3 years, that came from a book called The Extreme Future, which is all about a man who predicts the extreme future. And it's beyond your wildest imagination. The extreme future. During the course of this 45 minutes or hour, I'm going to give you some resources that it's taken me the last 25 or 30 years of my life to discover these resources. They're invaluable resources, invaluable. If you want to know about the future, the extreme future. If you want to understand how small things create huge outcomes, small things. The tipping point with Malcolm Gladwell. The tipping point. What causes things to tip? Now, when I called Colleen up here and I gave her the $50, Colleen, if you feel so inspired, tell me how you really felt when I handed you $50 for picking up a piece of paper. Tell me how you really felt inside. Very grateful. Any other feelings other than very grateful? What was the other one? Glad you picked up the piece of paper. There's another experiment I do. I'll call somebody up to the stage. I just did this in Copenhagen. I looked around the audience, I motioned to a lady, come here for just a minute. She walked up, I reached in my pocket. I didn't have any of the country's currency, Danish crowns. So I reached in my pocket and I handed her a $10 bill. And when I handed it to her, she kind of backed up. She said, no, I don't want that. I said, why not? Well, I'm just not comfortable taking that. You see, there's something called the art of receiving. And most humans aren't familiar with the art of receiving. They're familiar intelligently with the art of giving, but they're not really familiar with the art of receiving. Now, I do this experiment a lot. I'll go in a shopping mall and I'll walk up to somebody and hand them a $5 bill. What do I have to do for this? Nothing. Receive it. That's all you have to do is just receive it. Now I'm going to give you an absurd example of this and why it's so important to everybody in this room to grasp hold of the art of receiving. I'm reading a book right now. I won't tell you the title because I'm actually going to give one of them away. It is the most powerful tool I've ever come across in my lifetime. I was reading it on the airplane yesterday. Talks about this experiment. This is courtesy of Brandon Bays. This is a quote from Brandon Bays. People are interviewing to get a job. And this one particular person, well, there's a group of people interviewing. And 5 of these people have made it through all the cuts. And there's hundreds of people trying out for this job. Hundreds. Comes down to 5 people. Those 5 people are to report to this office building at such and such a time for their final interview process. They go in, they sit down, they're handed some papers. They were interviewing for this job. It was very difficult to get into the top 5. And then the 5 of them noticed something they never noticed before on the paperwork. They were interviewing for what they thought was a $60,000 a year job. That's what they were interviewing for. But they noticed something very odd. There was an extra 0 on the 60. It was $600,000 salary. A very high percentage of people, when put in that situation, do not complete the interview, they leave. Why? Why would somebody who applied for a $60,000 job get up and walk out when they find out they're in the final cut and the salary is really $600,000? Why would they get up and leave? This is so important to get this, especially where you are right now with this company, because you have the opportunity to create an enormous amount of financial wealth. Why did people leave and not complete the interview?
They don't deserve it.
They don't deserve it. They're not worthy. Because you see, what we're taught for the most part about